Welcome to the Inventory Professional Podcast, brought to you by InventoryBase, providers of industry-leading property inspection software, accredited training, and on-demand property reports. Join us as we discuss the latest news, legislation, and all things property, hosted by our very own inventory expert, Sián Metcalf. With regular special guests, listen in to our open and honest discussions about the role of the inventory professional and how to navigate through this ever-changing, fast-paced industry.
Welcome to the Inventory Professional Podcast with me, Sián from InventoryBase Academy, and I'm joined again by my co-host Melissa from MGN Inventories. Hi Melissa, how are you doing today?
Hello, yes, good, thank you. Surviving the cold, so.
I know. It is not nice, isn't it? It's also the dark as well. And I know it's winter, I get that, and it's meant to be dark at this time, but equally, I think this year, because of the way it's been going and how quickly it's gone, it's a bit weird. It's almost like it's too dark too soon, too cold too soon. The fact that, you know, our decorations are up already. I know some people might cringe, and I'm sorry, but they're up. I thought I need some joy, I need some colour, and the other half's already singing Christmas songs, so I thought I might as well just get on with it.
Oh, really? Well, yeah, I heard they started playing the Christmas songs on the radio today, which did help with the greyness outside. So, you know, I think we've just got to embrace it, haven't we?
We do, yeah. I must admit, I'm a Radio 1 person, and they were actually having a rather long conversation with some of their listeners as to whether they should or should not play music with Christmas themes. And I was on the fence thinking, oh, maybe it's a bit too early. But I must admit, as soon as they put Mariah Carey on, I was bopping around the kitchen area. I have to admit that. It might not have been a pleasant picture, but I did it just the same.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a fan. The earlier the Christmas, the better, I think. And we need it this year as well, so...
Yeah, a little bit of cheer, a little bit of colour, something to look forward to, get away from the greyness and the darkness and the cold. Although it's not as cold as I thought it might be for this time of year, but I did look at the long range forecast earlier, and it was saying something like that they reckon we're going to have the coldest winter on record. And I'm thinking, oh, really?
Oh, that's the icing on the cake then, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I've just brought the tone down. I do apologise. But we might get a white Christmas out of it. So from that point of view, that's not such a bad thing. I mean, to wake up with all your decks and everything on Christmas Day with snow covering on the floor, that would be quite cool. Though I think the last time Bournemouth had that, I think that must have been about 2016, maybe. I'm not quite sure. I'm not good on dates.
I don't know. You know, I don't remember it being a white Christmas where I live since I was a child. So it's been a really long time.
Has it? Yeah. Well, let's hope so, because it's nice when it's like that. I said I don't like the cold, but I appreciate the aesthetics. I appreciate how it all looks. So you never know. So I don't know about you, but for InventoryBase, it has been a mega busy week. Certainly in the last few weeks, we have launched a couple of new initiatives. We've got drones. I don't know if you've seen, Melissa, that we've integrated into work streams with Drone Safe Register.
Yes, and it's such an amazing thing to do. Actually, I kind of thought, oh, drones, like I don't really know how it would work. But then, you know, the instant you start thinking about it, you think the possibilities are endless.
No, I even didn't think of all the different things you could do. I always thought they were just more of a hobbyist type. And don't get me wrong, I've seen drones in a commercial setting in regards to like Amazon looking to deliver packages and to the military and so on and so forth. But I didn't necessarily think in the terms of inspections, but it makes so much sense. And since my husband's just qualified as a surveyor, you know, that's actually quite a big topic of discussion at the moment in regards to how do you look at roofs, how do you inspect them?
Yeah, of course.
Obviously, from our point of view, as inventory providers, that's not what we do. However, there's a lot of inventory providers that are doing different work streams in regards to different offerings to their client base. And some of it will be drones, some of it will be surveying, some of it is electrical. You've got Legionella. There's so many different strands that inventory providers and suppliers can add to their wares, as it were, what they offer out to their clients, that drones just make a huge amount of sense and a huge amount of fun as well. I mean, we got invited to go and fly some drones once we get past this particular lockdown. And I'm really looking forward to that, just to see what their manoeuvrability is like, what we can see, and get a real good sense of how useful they're going to be.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, like you say, we don't necessarily look at the roofs in that way, but I sort of did immediately think, I've had a couple of times when there's been fire damage in outbuildings, and, you know, extensive grounds, and particularly actually this time of year where some gardens are just complete bog, rather than traipsing all the way through the gardens and then, you know, trying to avoid the property, as it were, to, you know, not get back in. And I think that those kind of things, I mean, it's such a good thing to have to, you know, a string to your bow as well. Like you were saying, it's just being able to offer all these different variations, and you never know, you know, you never know what people are going to want. I've seen quite a few agents that are doing certainly their sales with drones, as capturing it from a sort of 360 perspective. So it might filter into lettings yet, and then, you know, to be able to already be on the forefront and have that is fantastic.
I think, I do agree. I think it will certainly make, from a lettings point of view, properties and portfolios really stand out from the crowd, especially when you've got the larger properties or more higher end type lettings, that they will really be seen so far and above anybody else, maybe when people are looking for Rightmove, purely because of the video content. But it'll be interesting also when it comes to, if we do get any snow, how, you know, the visuals and how the landscape, especially where we are in Southampton, Bournemouth, Hampshire, you know, we've got some beautiful areas. We've got the New Forest to be able to, you know, take pictures and see above the canopy and how that all looks. But equally, I think from an inventory provider point of view, to be able to offer that as a potential service using work streams and Drone Safe Register to outsource the physical side of it, the getting of the video, the using of the drones, because you do need to be properly qualified, properly licensed and insured. But then to add that to your offerings to your clients, to be able to say that we can do all of this for you. So we're not just an inventory provider, not that we ever are just inventory providers, because we are so much more than that. But be able to say that we can do these aerial photographies, we can do these videos, we can do these inspections and risk assessments. I think it's a huge game changer to what we can potentially do. And as I said in the blog, you know, the sky's not the limit. We can do so much with the drones. Yes,
it's just a fantastic addition, really, and to be teamed up, you know, with such good providers and right at the start of things. So it's exciting to see what will happen with it.
Yeah, and that's a really good point. Is the fact is that drone pilots, drone operators are just another member potentially of our wider supplier family, that it's nice to see us all kind of coming together and being able to utilize each other's skills and abilities to be able to enhance our own offerings to our client base, and also supporting them at the same time by using their services. So it just shows you that we don't need to be focusing just on inventories. There's so much more that we can do. It's just about looking beyond our current skill set, looking where we can potentially go to other people, find other potential offerings and services, so that we can enhance what we do, but also then build out further and further in regards to linking with other suppliers and showcasing to the clients that we have got a much more rounded service. So yeah, really exciting, really different. The other thing that we've done over the last week is integrate with the depository. Have you come across Christian Byfield and the depository as yet?
I have seen some things. I mean, it's one of those things, it kind of crept up on me a little bit, and then, you know, I heard what was happening. But I think, again, that is such a great thing. It's one less thing for agents to worry about. I think, you know, agents and clients, multiple things to do, uploading documents. I think the fact that we're integrating in with them and they're recognising the format that we're doing and what we're doing, I think that's a great addition as well.
Definitely. I think anything that we can do to help the end user, the person that is using our services, the landlords, the tenants, the agents, to make their life easier, more simple, but equally not losing on the detail, losing on the quality, really makes a lot of sense. And what the depository is doing is by bringing all the information into this system, feeding it all in, be able to give the deposit schemes, in this instance it's going to be TDS, the ability to collate all the relevant information so they can understand what's been going on with the tenancy, whether there's any monies that need to be taken from the deposit, or equally that the tenants need to have their deposit back because there's no case to actually answer. It makes a huge amount of sense. And to be able to see that in one place, where at the moment, if you think about it, all of our information goes to different people at different times for different reasons, and to have the ability to bring all that together in one spot makes a huge amount of sense to me. And certainly from the point of view of just getting that information in one area, so that you don't have to go looking for evidence and having to wait for people to send you bits and make sure they send it to you in the right format, etc. Everything's going to be able to be integrated, automatically uploaded and to the system. And certainly from an InventoryBase point of view, Open API, the ability to feed that information directly from the report via click of a button through the integration is going to make that process so much better for for the client, for the tenant, for the landlord, for the adjudicator. It's a real no-brainer, and it's one of those very simple ideas that you think, wow, why didn't someone think about that earlier? But obviously Christian did, and that's all kudos to him. But it makes so much sense. And I like stuff like that, because for me, you don't need to overcomplicate things. You don't need to make something really difficult and so complicated that no one really understands what it does. It's a very simple format. It's a very simple premise, and executed beautifully with the depository. And now with us integrating as InventoryBase, we're just hopefully adding to that simple and beautiful integration. If you think about it, one of the key benefits, certainly from my point of view, when I first started using InventoryBase, was the fact that it was completely paperless. It was easy to use, easy to understand, easy for the clerks to use in order to gather the information at the property, easy then for the client to understand and to then share on with the tenants, and then to be able to then use that and put all that information literally with a click of a button into the system, so that then any costs, any deductions, any funds all can be negotiated, could be reconciled so easily. And in a way, we have, as providers, have been asking for something, not necessarily what the depository is doing per se, but about streamlining what it is that we do. So it makes sense for everybody, because in one hand, where we're trying to make everything paperless and very easy, but on the other hand, a lot of the process, especially when it's getting to adjudication or talking to the agents, it's very clunky. It's a little bit backward in regards to the paper trail and the evidence trail, and just trying to figure out who said what and when, and it doesn't need to be that complicated, it doesn't need to be that busy. So I think the depository and our integration as InventoryBase really will help that process greatly. And one of the really, really exciting bits of news this week has been the launch of live inspections, which is InventoryBase Live. And that was actually done, I don't know if you got a chance to see, Melissa, on Kerfuffle on the webinar on Tuesday.
Yes, I did. I was in and out of it, but it was a very exciting announcement.
For those of you who haven't yet seen the announcement, on Tuesday, we launched our live inspections app, and the app will allow us as service providers to be able to link with the tenant in their own home without actually us going into the home via a live app. We'll be able to walk the tenant through their own property, be able to ask the tenant to take photographs, talk to them to make sure that they're safe, that the property is okay, and that if there's any maintenance issues, if there's any issues they want us to know, and the tenant can take pictures going around like we would do as if we were actually at that property doing an interim inspection. And that's all done live. And then once that conversation is finished, the tenant literally stops the app doesn't hold any information, and then we can then compile our report and get that off to the agent, to the landlord, so they can see how the property is being managed, make sure that anything maintenance wise is dealt with, and make it very easy and simple, certainly from the tenant point of view, especially because we are in 2.0 lockdown, that even with the likelihood of the easement over the Christmas period being able to back into properties. I think most people just really don't want anybody else around their properties at the moment. And I totally get that. I don't think I'd want anybody really walking around in mine at the moment, because none of us really know exactly if we're all okay and well enough to be there. And so that takes that worry away. But what it does do, it means that the landlord, the agent, will still be able to see the property, still be able to understand that the property is being looked after and managed, and also gives the tenant the ability to say, that's broken, or that's not working, or I need some advice on this, or I need some help with that, or everything is absolutely fine and we're done and dusted, and they can get on with their other day-to-day activities, work, or just being at home, especially if they're maybe not particularly well or self-isolating. So I think it's a huge step forward for the industry to be able to do this.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think obviously it's very topical at the moment, very important with what's going on, people that are self-isolating. But obviously we started with the self-service inspections, and now the live inspections is a step up. And I think that really helps us as providers. I think, we chatted before about, knowing what we need to look for, and directing tenants in such a way to be able to find out that information. But actually, when you look at it as a solution in a way, it is far-reaching from the fact that we will be able to inspect, in theory, more properties by doing it this way. And then also, there are tenants that even pre-lockdown were always quite sensitive and worried about someone coming into their house and didn't really like it. And there was that whole logistics issue of if they did want to be home, and I personally found the majority of tenants always did want to be home, then trying to fit in a time that was good for them, because obviously they can't take time off work, and then we as providers going at sort of 4:30, 5 o'clock at night, or trying to fit it into a Saturday. And this is actually a perfect solution to those type of tenancies as well. I think it helps everyone, it will help clients, it will help landlords, and I think tenants will feel better about the prospect of an inspection with this kind of solution.
No, I quite agree. And also the fact is they're going to be complete control, and because same with anything that's video, to be honest with you. Someone's walking around, even this, so take video out, actually anybody walking around your home, that's still someone in your home. People worry about that, especially nowadays with what's going on. And so by taking that worry out of the equation, then tenants going to be a little bit more comfortable. But also the fact that they're in control, that they're the ones who start the conversation, they're the ones that finish the conversation, they're the ones that take the photographs. So they've got complete control of the process. They can talk to the clerk, but they once that call's finished, then that's it. Nothing is held on the app, so they don't have to worry in regards to anything from a privacy point of view, anything from a GDPR point of view. And rightly, as you say, it gives us as inventory providers the ability to do multiple jobs, whereas normally we would have to go get keys potentially, although I've never been a fan of going into someone's home without them there. It's their stuff, it's their home. I much prefer someone to be there. But it also means that we can do multiple jobs, so we can book more in, because we're not having to get keys, as I was saying, not having to maybe wait. Sometimes, I don't know about you, but sometimes we'll get there and tenant's not there, or they're on their way to having to wait, and then that's that knock-on effect. And obviously with the whole COVID issue, you've got to make sure that you've got all the right PPE. You've got to change that PPE and re-sanitize as you're leaving, also before you enter another person's property. So there's a lot of things to be thinking about that live inspections effectively are taking out that equation. So in a way, I could see it from a tenant's point of view, that it'd be a lot more relaxed and more able to chat, as we do normally in interim, and conduct that visit in a very relaxed kind of way, and hopefully we'll get all the information that we need. But I think one of the issues, I don't know if you've thought about this, Melissa, or someone's even mentioned it to you, but I've had it mentioned to me by a clerk where they're a bit worried that they could then get replaced. And I'm like, absolutely not, because the one thing that is needed is an expert pair of eyes. Would you not agree?
Yes, absolutely. And I think there is the argument that clients, landlords might use the app to try and do live inspections. But I think that probably draws back to times when they were trying to do inventories and checkouts themselves as well. And, much the same way that people can look at things on a surface point, but what we bring to the equation is the experience.
Yeah.
We've been doing it for so many years. We know the areas to instantly look at and the things to be worried about and the questions to ask. And obviously, from our experience in doing face-to-face inspections anyway, we know the conversations to be had to help draw out the information that we need as well.
Yeah, it's that personable touch, isn't it? It's relaxing conversation. So you're getting out of the conversation exactly what you need. You're asking the questions in the right way. Everybody's comfortable, but equally, if things are being asked or maybe things are being missed, or you can see you're not going exactly where you thought you'd go, and you're missing certain things, or something's not quite right. Unless you've got that eye, unless you've got that experience, you might not necessarily pick that up. So the worry that this particular clerk had about the fact that they might get replaced, that they wouldn't be needed, is actually, I think it's the opposite way around. I think they're more needed, because they will understand, if there's a bit of the property has not been seen, why hasn't it been seen? Or they're having a conversation, but it's particularly evasive. You pick up on these things. We learn how to deal with people, because it is very much a people job. We do reports that mean that people aren't there, tenants and landlords and agents. That is done relatively, in isolation, as it were. But the interactions we have at checkout and interim and with the clients help us build that picture, and so that we will be able to bring a lot to this service. But I think the benefits will be the fact, like I said, you won't have to be going out, you won't have to get the keys. The tenants hopefully will feel much more comfortable because they're in control. You'll be able to get the information. And again, the safety aspect, that's for me, certainly right this moment, is absolutely key.
Yes, I mean, for sure, because we don't know at the moment what's happening. It's all very much unknown, I think. And, we've done a couple of podcasts on sort of lockdown and the effects that it's having. But certainly, even when we think we know what's going to happen, a couple of days, a couple of weeks down the line, and it all changes anyway. And in this kind of environment where it is ever changing, the possibility to be able to have something like that, again, another string to our bow is great, really.
Yeah, I think so. And that really kind of leads on to the next point I was going to kind of draw up, was the fact that we've got this announcement that we know that we're going to have a relaxation of the COVID secure processes, so that people will hopefully be able to have some kind of normal, and I use that in very inverted commas, Christmas, and be able to meet up with family. But that does distract from the fact that we still need to be careful. We still need to pay attention to the rules, the regulations that hopefully will keep us all safe. But with that, obviously comes a lot of responsibility. But it also means then I'm hoping that we might avoid yet another lockdown, but I know that the tiers that are coming in will mean that some people have greater restrictions, other people will have lesser, and obviously that's going to be subject to change. Now, the one key thing that I am seeing from government in regards to housing is that certainly the housing market, the ability to move, will still remain open and available, even whether you're in tier 1, tier 2 or tier 3. Equally, though, we're still got to be sensible and still take the right precautions, but it means then certainly the housing industry will be able to continue. So from an inventory provider's point of view, we'll still be able to work. So I think that's a good positive from our point of view, and also from tenants and from landlords, because then people will be able to move, be able to go into the homes that they're either hoping to or waiting for or need to go into, especially as we find, certainly during the Christmas period. I don't know about you, but last year, the period between Christmas and New Year was extremely busy. There were a lot of people moving around.
Yes, and I think judging by what we've got happening at the moment, certainly my November's busier than it's ever been before.
Yeah, same here.
I think that is just the impact of things sort of being shuffled along. Certainly after the first lockdown, it was busy because everyone wanted to move. They would either been held up before or had just been surfing Rightmove the entire time lockdown. And I do think that that's a knock-on effect now, that it's still people are trying to get those last few moves in. I mean, certainly I think it's going to be a little bit quieter towards Christmas again, because it always is. People want to be settled before Christmas happens. But yeah, absolutely. I think that it's going to be very busy in between Christmas and New Year this year. And then if the regulations to being able to move and housing remain the same, then I would imagine that certainly in the new year as well, there'll be a lot of people that think now's the time to do it, get ready against another possible lockdown. So
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm hoping we don't get to 3.0, but I kind of think that there's a good possibility, but let's keep our fingers crossed, do everything we can and try and avoid it. And certainly with the downtime that we're all going to have, I think now is definitely the time to try and take the time out, spend with family where you can, where it's safe to replenish yourself in regards to both physically, take a rest, because it can be quite draining with all this work, with everything that's going on, but also from a mental point of view, making sure that, certainly you take the time to de-stress as much as possible, spend time with families, spend time thinking about yourself. But you can also use that time to think about your business, think about any changes you need to make or you would like to make, maybe you didn't have chance to beforehand. I mean, I'm certainly taking the opportunity to get on with writing another course, doing some work around my own business as well as what we're doing with InventoryBase, because we're not stopping in regards to the innovations and the chops and changes that we're making to the system to make it better and even more of a effective tool for our users. And I think you've also done something similar, haven't you, in the last week or so?
I have, yes. I mean, this is typically my time of year to sort of get everything in order, review my processes, see anything that needs to be changed whilst it's a little bit quieter. And yes, whilst it hasn't been quieter this year, I've taken the leap to move over to InventoryBase and the software, because I I do stick in the mud quite a lot. And I was aware of the system, was impressed with the system for a very long time, maybe a year or so. But I think almost when you are as stubborn as me, it's also daunting.
I've been there. I've done that. It's not nice change. No one likes change, especially if it takes, a lot. Not saying not a lot of effort, because that makes it sound like that we can't be bothered, and we can. But it's it can be quite a big shift from what you know to something new, knowing that it's going to help you, but equally there's some pain there. Let's be honest.
That's it. Absolutely. It's taking that leap. And I think, I had a bit of a conversation with myself, and I thought, well, it's only ever going to get worse. The longer you leave something, the harder it'll be. So just to get on with it, because I would have moved over in the summer, but I had lots of student properties. And again, that sort of prevented me thinking, I haven't got time to think to myself what to do, let alone start implementing something. And actually, the transition's been very easy. So it's not something that I needed to necessarily worry about at all. And having experience with the software previously as well, I knew that wouldn't be an issue. But yes, so just moving everything over now, really. And I think in theory, it is the perfect time of year for it. And when it's sort of a little bit quieter, certainly in December, I'm quite excited to have a sort of a proper play around with things and organise templates differently. And, that kind of thing excites me anyway, which is a little bit to say, but there's admin involved. I love it. So
I'm exactly the same. I absolutely I enjoy admin. I love a good spreadsheet. I know people are probably going, oh my god, what are these two talking about? But it's all about making, like I said, the actual process of what we do so much easier, so much more streamlined, and then that means it's time effective, it's cost effective, and that's what it's all about. Because you don't want to be slugging your guts out, for want of a better phrase, and literally stood still. You want to build your business, you want to make it so that you get a comfortable life out of it, and so any kind of process that's going to help make that better for you makes huge amounts of sense. And I'm like you, I changed my system over around about this time of year, when I moved from my previous app provider over to InventoryBase, and it just gave me the time to settle in, wheedle out any issues in regards to my understanding, making sure I was using the system effectively, that my clerks knew how to use it, my clients needed to know how to use it. So I wanted to spend time explaining to them. Not that actually, I don't know about you, but it doesn't actually need a lot of explaining. Most of it's actually quite straightforward, quite intuitive.
Yes, absolutely. I think the way that technology is nowadays, anyway, people are used to these kind of online systems. It doesn't take a lot of explaining. It is pretty self-explanatory. I don't think, I've really had any questions about it that have not been easily sort of fathomed. Going forward, the amount of time that it will save will be brilliant, and then that just leads me to be able to invest that time in other opportunities. So I think, it had to happen, and I'm pleased that I've taken the leap, and now, yes, it's just getting everything organised.
Great, lovely. Well, you know where to come if you need to pick any brains. Not that I'm going to potentially know everything, but I've been using it for a good few years now, and I must admit, the ability for the system to scale with me, which it has done, and be able to pivot and change, and what with now the ability to, like I said, integrate via work streams with drones, the live inspections. I'm really looking forward to implementing that, and then obviously what we're doing with the depository with Christian Byfield in regards to the integration, getting that end-to-end process sorted out, and especially because checkouts and what happens thereafter checkouts, i.e. what your report says, what needs to be done, how it's then viewed, and whether there's any deductions or not to be made. There's a whole raft of work that needs to be done around that, but you need those first parts of the process sorted. And now with the depository, we've got the ability to take that the next step further. And then so it's quite exciting times, I think, certainly from our industry point of view, because certainly when I started, I was still talking to people who are still using pen and paper, the odd app. Things were only just really starting to gather any kind of like pace in regards to the tech side of it, and making it so that it was more efficient. Whereas now we just seem, I don't know about you, but we seem to be racing along. There's just so much going on, and certainly from InventoryBase point of view, it feels like a whirlwind, but it's great. It's really exciting.
Yes, and I think, like you said, the ability for it to scale with you. I mean, everything's come on leaps and bounds anyway, but I think that's something that you've got to look for. And, the experience that I had with them is that I knew that things change all the time. It's not just one of these things that, it's out there and, we can't really change this and we can't really change that. The ability to change things when you need to is there. And I think that they are always thinking of us anyway, and what we need and how we need it. And like with the live inspections, anticipating something that we didn't know we needed, it works on all forums now.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, I think that if I can say is one benefit from everything that's been happening this year, and obviously I take into account everything that's going on and what it's caused, and obviously how it's affected people, but I think one benefit is it's really made both us and industry, and certainly the Proptech industry, really think outside the box, and not think in regards to limitations, but think along the lines of we can do anything. We can literally think about it, and there's a potential there that we could actually implement it, but all with the end user in sight, all with the foresight of what will that person need it for, what's going to make their life easier and better and quicker and more efficient, and just take away those stresses, those strains, those pain points. And I know some people wouldn't necessarily say, well, an inventory is a pain point, but it can be if it means a tenant's going to lose their deposit, if it means a landlord isn't able to access that deposit because there maybe the property hasn't been well looked after. So that they're all potential impacts, and you only need one little ripple, and then that kind of spreads further out. So if we can minimize those issues, minimize those pain points through use of Proptech by thinking outside that box, then that has got to be a positive thing. And I think at least one thing from this year is that we've had that time, we've been able to sit there and think, well, what would we actually like to do that will benefit people and that they can realistically use, and it will make their life, and certainly from a landlord point of view, an agent and a tenant point of view, much, much easier.
The possibilities really are endless there, and I think it, like you say, it's servicing everyone. It doesn't just benefit one group, it's helping everyone.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Because at the end of the day, as I always say to people, the property is the landlord's, but the deposit is the tenant's. And it's not a case of you're just protecting the landlord's property by doing your report. You are, but you're also protecting the tenant's deposit. And the idea is that, if we get our job right, then they're equally protected, and equally means that they can be judge, in regards to any adjudications fairly, and give the adjudicators everything they need to be able to do their job properly. So again, I said it's interesting times. There's a lot of stuff still to come out from InventoryBase. I think certainly for the last week, that's been quite an exciting time for us all. So I think that's a great time to finish today, Melissa, unless there's anything else you'd like to talk about.
Well, I could chat for hours, but probably best not. Maybe leave it for another one.
Thanks for joining us this week on the Inventory Professional Podcast. If you've enjoyed the show, subscribe to our podcast now and share the love. This podcast was brought to you by InventoryBase, providers of industry-leading property inspection software, accredited training, and on-demand property reports.